Dorian Yates, Ronnie didn't make good judgment training super heavy for 2 to 3 representatives while getting ready for a contest, and that's just not a smart thing to do. You need to modify your training when your body fat is so low and you're preparing for a contest, because at that point you should be concentrating on maintaining muscle and losing as much fat as you can. Maintaining doesn't require going to 100%. It contributed to a lot of damage to his spine, and then I think he had surgery, and the surgery went wrong. It was just a snowball effect that now means he's somewhat disabled. But to Ronnie's credit, he's always smiling, so he seems to be handling it well. You've probably heard stories of bodybuilders lifting absurd weights, squatting hundreds of kilos, deadlifting like powerlifters, but what happens when those heavy lifting habits meet contest prep dieting and extremely low body fat? Legendary 6-time Mr. Olympia Dorian Yates thinks that's a dangerous recipe. In this video we dig into his warning to Ronnie Coleman, and more broadly, what training smart versus training heavy really means for longevity, muscle, and health. Dorian has openly criticized Ronnie's approach, lifting super heavy for 2 to 3 representatives while getting ready for a contest, a time when the body is already taxed from dieting, low energy and fat depletion. According to him, that is just not a smart thing to do. The core of the issue, when body fat is extremely low and the body is under stress, the aim should shift from building new muscle to maintaining what you have. Heavy, maximal lifts no longer make sense in that context. Yates predicted this mindset could become self-destructive over time. Sadly, with Ronnie's history of surgeries, spine, hips, back, etc., many of those warnings turned out to have merit. Why heavy lifting during contest prep is risky. Reduced reserve for recovery. When a body is in contest prep, low calories, low fat, less energy, its recovery capacity is compromised. Heavy, spinal loading lifts, like max squats or deadlifts, demand peak recovery. In a depleted state, small mistakes or overloading sharply increase risk of injury. Dorian's point, the return, in terms of muscle or strength, doesn't justify the risk. Real-world consequences, injuries and surgeries. The heavy lifting legacy of Ronnie Coleman, multiple surgeries, hip replacements, spinal operations, chronic pain and limited mobility. Medical experts warn that squatting or deadlifting extreme weight, especially near muscle failure, exerts tremendous pressure on discs, joints, ligaments. Over time, this wear and tear can lead to herniated discs, joint degeneration, and permanent damage. You don't need maximal lifts to build or maintain muscle mass. Yates himself, a legendary mass monster and 6-time Mr. Olympia, demonstrates that massive muscle plus contest-ready conditioning can be achieved without constantly maxing out on 800-pound squats or brutal powerlifting style sets, especially during prep. He argues, and history seems to support, that intelligent training methods, focusing on intensity, adequate volume, controlled lifts, are safer and more sustainable. Counterclockwise arrows what Yates recommends instead, training smart. During contest prep or fat loss phases, switch away from maximal heavy lifts. The goal should be muscle preservation, not pushing new PRS. Emphasize controlled, moderate to high representatives, lighter, but challenging, loads, focus on form and muscle stimulation rather than ego lifting. This reduces risk on spine to joints while maintaining muscle integrity. Yates has spoken about moving to machines or safer alternatives when needed. Listen to your body and be ready to adjust. Sometimes legacy of marrow-deep weights isn't worth the cost. Many top athletes have had to trade extreme lifts for long-term health. Final thoughts, what we all can learn. The story of Dorian Yates versus Ronnie Coleman isn't about bashing legends, it's about learning from extremes. Being a mass monster doesn't always mean training like a powerlifter when dieting or prepping. Bodybuilding demands not just muscle, also longevity, health, and respect for your body. That smart, balanced training approach that Yates advocates might not give the flashiest gym videos, but long-term, fewer surgeries, less pain, and a healthier life.